Welcome back to Triathlon University. Since you guys liked this swim and the bike video so much, we had to do run to complete a triathlon, right? So now, like always, you should read the Ironman rulebook and the athlete guide for any specific rules for your race. But since a lot of us are visual learners, I thought it would be good to run through some of the rules and regulations. This is specifically for Ironman 70.3 and Ironman Triathlon. And before we get started, if you guys enjoy these videos, you should definitely go to the link in my bio, click on Triple Threat Life Weekly, and you can join the newsletter that I send out once a week. All kinds of stuff like this, triathlon tips, just making triathlon easy and to understand. So let's get started. So first, the most obvious things. You have to complete the entire course from the start to the finish of the run. That is what timing chips are for, that you will have on your ankle for the entirety of the race. And you're gonna see numerous rubber mats out there, and you have to cross over each one of those. That actually is what will pop up on the Ironman tracker that your friends and family can kind of know where you are located. It's not 100% because it's not GPS, but every time you cross a timing mat, that's going to give you an update, and that's how they make sure that you have completed the entire course and didn't skip a portion. Littering, this is actually a pretty big penalty. You would be surprised. So there's going to be several aid stations on course. They're normally located a mile to a mile and a half, depending on the race distance. And they're always going to be around the aid station, and it's going to have a sign like this. This is last chance trash, and that means that's where you can toss gel wrappers, banana peel, water bottle that you don't want to carry anymore, whatever you have on you. Now, it doesn't matter if you get it exactly in the trash can on the bike and the run, so don't worry about that. A volunteer is going to pick it up, but it is important that you only drop things in this zone, because for a 70.3, you could get a 2-minute penalty for intentional or careless littering. And for a full Ironman, that's gonna be a 3-minute penalty. Technically, it could also progress to a disqualification. So not a big deal, just when you see last chance trash, that's the only place you wanna put trash is in the trash cans on course, which makes sense. Because we wanna make sure that the people in these communities where we are racing are okay with us coming back. And if we leave a bunch of trash out in the race course, they're not gonna be super happy about that. Things you need to wear during the run. Obviously, a bib. And this is gonna have your bib number on the front. A lot of people have a piece of elastic or like a band that has a little snap. You're just gonna put that on transition. Your bib should stay in the front because, again, that has a timing chip underneath it. That helps to let referee know what number you are, and also for race photographers. So technically it could be a disqualification if you don't wear your bib number on the run. It's kind of a last chance thing for the trackers if a tracking system failed for timing you, so it's important. You just want to make sure that you grab your bib number and that you head out with it on. Now, for what you are allowed to wear during the run. So a lot of people will wear a tri-suit. So is this lovely photo. This is Annie Haug, one of the best Ironman runners. I ascribe to look like her one day when I'm running. So she's wearing a full piece tri-suit, so it just has a single zipper and it has a chamois underneath in the bottom portion, and that's what you're going to swim, bike, and run in. Some people have separates, so you could have a tri-top and tri-shorts. That's totally fine. Now, also in the longer races, so Ironman races, there will be changing tents. Hint, transition is coming in a future video, but a little preview. So there are gonna be changing tents for the full Ironman distance and the bike and the run. So some people will choose to change into a pair of like a singlet and running shorts for the marathon, just because that's what they're more comfortable in. You could do that for half, but a lot of people don't. You would have to change into porta potty, which could be a little difficult because no nudity allowed. Also, that is a rule somewhere in here. But those are the things you can wear. Now, there's some rules for what you cannot wear. You cannot have a bare torso. So guys, you cannot be running around with shorts and no shirt on. You will get tagged by a referee for that. And technically, if your suit has a zipper, it can be unzipped in the front to any length. So like if it's hot out, you just need to keep it attached here at the bottom. And then it's always a good idea to remember before the finish line to zip it up. There have been some controversies with some pros getting penalties and disqualifications years ago. They've kind of relaxed those restrictions a little bit, but it's just a respect thing. You want to zip up your kit before you cross the finish line. Also, it's better for pictures. Can you wear headphones during the run? No, you cannot. You cannot wear headphones. It's a safety thing. Can't be listening to music. You have to be present with your own thoughts. Sorry about that. You're racing, there's going to be a lot to distract you. You cannot use a cell phone for calls or recording purposes. You cannot use those AI glasses to record. That's something they added recently this past year. You can't be doing anything in a distractive manner. No videoing yourself while you're on course. Have a family member, spectator do that. Can't communicate with walkie-talkies. I mean, these things should be kind of obvious. That could be a 30 to 60-second penalty depending on the race distance. There are certain shoes that are not allowed during Ironman races for the run, and typically Ironman adheres to World Athletics guidelines, so they're very similar. It mostly has to do with stack height and the number of plates that are in shoes. So more often than not, a shoe you're gonna wear is going to be legal. However, you can check to make sure. They have an entire list on their website. For example, the one I was illustrating with earlier, this is my preferred race shoe. It's the Nike Alphafly. These are allowed. So it's just something you can check. Most shoes are going to be legal unless you're trying out some super fantastic alien super shoe or something. Something else that you cannot do. You cannot accept outside assistance. So this means a friend, a family member, a coach, they cannot hand you things. They can't hold a pair of glasses for you. They can't give you a water bottle. They can't give you chapstick, gels. That's to keep the race fair, right? So no outside assistance. Also, technically, people cannot drive a car, ride a bike alongside of you while you're racing. And so something to keep in mind if you have content creators out there. Typically a couple seconds, going by, 10 seconds is fine. You cannot have someone consistently staying next to you the entire time. That's a big no-no. You will get in big trouble for that. And outside assistance is a DQ. Technically, so outside assistance doesn't apply to volunteers. So you can get help from a volunteer, from medical personnel, from race staff, just anyone outside the race. Cannot give you assistance with pacing, nutrition, otherwise during the event. Technically, an athlete can help another athlete. So if you need something, like you wanted to share salt tabs with a friend, you dropped a gel, you're like, hey, does anyone else have an extra gel? You could do that. The only thing you cannot do is you cannot give another athlete something that would prevent you from finishing the race yourself. So for example, if you gave them shoes and you're like, now I cannot run and finish the race, that's not allowed, you both could get disqualified. So you can help with incidental things. You can help each other. Race people in the race, volunteers can help you. Just family and friends and coaches are there to watch, and that's it. This is a common question because some non-Ironman branded races allow it. Ironman does not. You cannot have friends or family member join you in the finisher's chute. So that red carpet, you can't have family or friends on the finish. That's just because that is a place for athletes and it's a safety concern. It might sound fun to cross the finish line with your kid, but that's not allowed at Ironman races. There are thousands of athletes finishing and they just can't be inviting people onto the course. So another fun rule that is actually listed in the Ironman rulebook is athletes may run, walk, or crawl to get to the finish line. If you like Ironman history, go back and look. Julie Moss. It was all over ESPN. Back in the day, crawled across the finish line. And so that is why they have that in their rules. So run and walk. Now, this is not rules, but I wanted to give you a piece of advice. We've been doing triathlon for 8 years now. I have done 12 Ironman 70.3 races, qualified for the 70.3 World Championship 4 times, most recently just a week ago in Calgary. Done 2 full Ironman. My husband's about the same number. We have an excellent coach who has really emphasize the importance of walk breaks for us during the run. And so a lot of people are like, oh, well, I've run a standalone half marathon before. I've run a marathon before. I didn't take walk breaks. I don't need to take walk breaks. So why would I do that? So the thing is, we are talking about swimming 1.2 miles. Then we're going to ride the bike 56 miles. And then you're going to run a half marathon. It is about cumulative fatigue, right? So you are not just running a half. You are not just running a marathon. You've been exercising for hours prior to doing that. What am I talking about by walk breaks? So there's going to be an aid station, and we'll talk more about this in the nutrition video, another spoiler coming soon. But there's going to be aid stations on the run every mile to a little bit over a mile and 0.25 maybe. And so you're going to have a visual reminder. You're going to run, depending on what pace you run, 8, 9, 10, whatever minutes to get to that next aid station, okay? So the aid station is a perfect opportunity to take a walk break. And by walk break, it can be as little as 15 seconds. So we're not walking because we're exhausted. We're not walking because we cannot run anymore. It is an intentional plan that we start from the beginning, because what walk breaks do is it allows you to lower your heart rate just slightly, because you need to use those beats later. And then also it helps during really hot races. Just allows you gotta lower your core temperature a little bit. You can grab ice, you can pour water on your head. It allows you to get in nutrition. Do you know how hard it is to take in nutrition while running? That's something you need to practice in training. But just that 15 to 30 seconds at an aid station, being able to consume nutrition, lower your heart rate a little bit, shake everything off, and then you start again. So at this recent Calgary race, very hard run. It was very hot. I took walk breaks every single aid station. Now that was a half. So for, let's say, a very cool race like North Carolina 70.3, I didn't necessarily need to take a walk break every aid station, but I definitely did a few. During a full Ironman, you better believe I'm taking a walk break every aid station. Now, people are like, oh, well, isn't that going to slow you down? So the thing is, I would challenge you, okay, to reframe about, oh, you can't walk, you have to push through. This isn't about ego. What we're talking about is performance. Smart and mindful about taking those little walk breaks when you need it. It can be at an aid station. It can be walking out of transition, stuffing everything in your pockets. You're doing a really steep, like a hard run course like Ironman Lake Placid, up one of those really big hills, because you can almost walk those as fast as you can run them. It's just about being smart and taking a little break when you need it to kind of stave off that fatigue, because everyone's going to slow down towards the end. So you want some examples? Yad Fredidon. If you don't know who he is, look it up. One of the best pro triathletes of all time. In Kona, took walk breaks. Chelsea Sodaro, who won in Kona a couple years ago, took walk breaks during the run. My husband and I just qualified, both of us, for the 7.3 World Championships at Calgary, walk breaks during the run. We have a pro triathlete on our triathlon team with our coach. She placed on the podium at Ironman Lanzarote behind Lucy Trice-Barclay. She takes walk breaks during the run. And my husband's coach, who just won the 50 to 54 age group at Ironman Lake Placid, will be going to Kona in a couple months, took 26 plus walk breaks during the run and still ran a 3:20 marathon. So it is not for fast, it's not for slow, it's for smart athletes. Okay, so I promise I'm done talking about walking right now. Next thing we're gonna talk about in a later video is nutrition. But just as a sneak peek, you cannot just solely rely on aid stations for the run. The reason is you do know what's going to be at the aid stations. Like, they're typically going to have ice, water, a gel, and some type of electrolyte drink. If you've trained with that in training, then that's good. However, you never know what's going to be at aid stations, and you never know how they're going to mix it. You never know if they're going to run out or not have what you need when you go by. Also, you need to be consuming nutrition in the period in time between aid stations. So if you're going to think about how fast a pro triathlete runs, they're going to get access to about twice as many aid stations as you are, because of the pace that you're running. It takes you longer to cover that mile, okay? So we even see pro triathletes carrying things not running. So it's very simply done with a run belt. I have a 20-ounce bottle I can stick in the back. I have some gels in here. I can drink whenever I want, instead of having to rely on an aid station. But that'll be for another video. Cooling is also incredibly important. At these aid stations, they're gonna have cups of water. They're gonna have ice. So during a very hot race, this is my procedure. See the aid station, start walking. First, bottle or like cup of water goes on my head. Then I grab ice, stick in my sports bra if you're a guy, stick it inside, unzip, stick your kit inside your kit. I have an ice hat that has a pocket, so I stuff ice in here. If you don't, put ice on and then put your cap on. Run holding ice, and then when it gets too cold, switch to the other hand. So anything we can do to keep ourselves wet and cold is going to help keep your core body temperature lower, because if you get to the point where you overheat, it doesn't matter how much you want to run, there's a very good chance you will be sitting on the sidewalk, on the curb. So we just want to make sure that you stay as cool as possible, especially during hard races. And the final point has to do with pacing. So I have to confess, this is something that I'm still working on. So you can pace this a lot of different ways. In training, you get a good idea of kind of what effort level you can hold for a race. I would caution you to not pick a specific number. That is one of the worst things, especially if you are new to long distance triathlon, that you can do, is to go in, I'm going to hold 8:45 pace, whatever, for the half marathon, or I'm going to run a 2:10 half marathon, whatever it is, because you will have been practicing that without doing the 1.2 mile swim and the 56 mile bike ride. Okay, so, and also with the cumulative fatigue that happens during races, you're very likely not going to be able to hold that specific number. Now, you might be able to also, conversely, you might be able to run it faster than you think. So this is a good thing to look at occasionally. If you're planning, like you typically in training, you normally run like a 9-minute mile, you feel comfortable there, you can run there for a while, and you run on a transition, you look down, you're running a 7-minute mile. It's good for outliers. Be like, oh no, that's not right, I should slow down. You can glance at your heart rate every now and again, but getting too tied into this is a big mistake. It's either going to make you run too fast, faster than what your current physical capability is telling that you can do, because your watch doesn't know. Okay, your body knows and your mind knows. Your watch is just a reflection of what the effort that you're putting forth. So when you're talking about pacing, you can do it different ways. If you're doing a course like Gulf Coast, which had 3 laps on the run this past year, you can think about in 3 laps. So we're going to do the first lap. We're going to settle in, not running like easy, but we're definitely not pushing it. We're just going to get through that first lap, see how the weather conditions feel, see how I feel coming off the bike, get my rhythm. Second lap, you can kind of push up a little bit, like, okay, this is where I think I want my race effort to be. I feel okay here. Then the third lap's going to be like, okay, now it's what you got left. Okay. Sometimes laps are a little too much for me and my brain to wrap around. So we were talking to our coaches the other day, and he had just finished Lake Placid. He was like, okay, so you practice these efforts in training. You're running 8 minutes, you race effort, 6 minutes, you race effort. So we're going to just think about aid station to aid station, okay? Commit to running the best you can from the first aid station to the next aid station. That doesn't mean as fast as you can. That means getting into your rhythm, standing upright again, being able to use your hip flexors from being leaned over on the bike for 56 or 112 miles. You're going to shake everything out. You're going to get used to that breathing rhythm of running again, taking in nutrition, and you're going to get to that first aid station, kind of see how things are, take a little walk break, and then you start again. So you're going to commit to running each aid station to each aid station. Sometimes when you get towards the end of the race, that's all you can do to keep going. You just got to, it's called chunking. You chunk the race up into little, more manageable sections. If you get to the point where I just need to run to the next tree, do that. Also, you can count athletes. Say, okay, I'm going to count how many athletes I pass. 1, 2, 3. Like, sometimes you have to play games, kind of negotiate with yourself a little bit, especially during the later stages of these races when things get really hard. And so I would say probably the best thing that you can do for training to prepare for pacing these type of runs is you can kind of look around at your watch first, be like, okay, this is what I think I'm going to run. Now you don't look at it, settle in, think about what that feels like. Then ask yourself, can I run what I am currently running for over an hour? If the answer is no, you are running way too fast, because nobody is running, nobody here, nobody watching this video is running an hour for a half marathon. We're talking about 70.3, okay? So you need to think that's a good judge. If you're like, okay, I'm running this current pace, I think I can feel relatively comfortable here It's not easy, but it's not like I'm sprinting. I can kind of hold this for around 2 hours. You're probably getting a little close to what you're going to be able to hold, depending on the speed you run. I understand there's a wide range of paces that people run for these distances. But for 70.3 especially, if you don't think you can hold what you are currently feeling for over an hour, then that's way too fast. So that's a good way, kind of a game to play with yourself. And then you get an idea once you set that feeling. I know what this feels like, because a lot of times you're going to get into a race and you're going to run out of transition and the crowd is big there and you're going to be hyped up and you're going to be like, I feel awesome. And then maybe 20 minutes later, you're going to be like, that was a very bad decision. So the problem is, a lot of times you start off too hot. It is very hard to come back after that. And so I don't think I've ever met someone who has gotten done with a race and been like, you know, I think I could have run faster those first 2 miles. No, you can always run faster at the end. That's the thing. You don't have to run a consistent pace the entire time, and you're not going to, especially if there's hills, you know, if there's really steep parts. There's parts that are really hot with no shade. So I understand I've gotten off rules a little bit here, but there's not that many rules for running. You need to get from point A to point B. So I hope that helps you guys. We're going to have more of these because we have to do aid stations, super important, and we're going to do transition because you've already asked for that. So I hope you guys enjoy these. Again, if you do, you don't just have to wait for the videos to come out on TikTok, because we are busy people training for another race in 6 weeks. So we also work. So you can go to the link in my bio, click on Triple Threat Life Weekly. That is the newsletter I send out once a week. A lot of things like this. We do triathlon tips. We talk about nutrition. We talk about what we do for strength training. We talk about bike maintenance stuff, how to wax chains, change tubeless tires, mindset things, kind of how to figure out how to pace this kind of stuff. And it's awesome. And I enjoy doing it. So I would love to see you guys. All you got to do is put in your email, and then I just send the newsletter to you. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more Triathlon University coming soon. Bye.